people here tonight? Get done quicker. We're on Mem Zayin coming out. Is that correct? Yeah, halacha vav. Towards the bottom. Hakodesh is Yevimto. Somebody who takes in his Yevama, and Hochot Taras, and the co-wife goes Menisas Lach and marries somebody else. The name says Zoshi Islandess, and turns out that the one who you married was an islandess. The one who you miyabim was an islandess, right? So Teitzim Mizeh Mizeh, she's got to be get divorced from both the Chol Drachim Elubah and all the chumras we throw at her, the whole kit and caboodle which you had previously. Now the Gemara is going to talk about this. So without any further ado, let's see the Gemara. Loy the trichol linaseis linasei elolis yarbein. If you have any case of this sort where the Yavama should not have gotten married l'shuk, but rather she should have been misyabemis. Okay, now I'm just talking about where you thought the co-wife was an islandess. Turns out she wasn't. But the same thing can be true in many cases. Stam, a woman who's supposed to undergo yibum instead undergoes and marries l'shuk, right? So what's her status? V'zui Yavama shenisas b'lo chalitza. That's the same status as our Mishnah. Yavama who gets married without chalitza. So what's the status of this such a case generically? That Rabbi Yirmiyah Omer zochel zemekayim. The husband who married her gets to keep her. Yeah, she was forbidden to him, but she was only forbidden to him as a lav, right? And that lav could be taken care of via chalitza. So therefore, the person who was supposed to have done yibum or chalitza does chalitza on her. She remains married to the person to whom she's currently married. Okay, the yavam who went out l'shuk. We don't paskin that way. Or even in Pazisher, Yochanan said, and this way we paskin. Tate say she's got to get divorced from the guy who married her. Rabbi Yossi showed Rabbi Pinchas. Rabbi Yossi asked Rabbi Pinchas, "Heich Rabbi Savar, what does Rabbi hold about this?" Or meaning you. How do you Rabbi Pinchas hold? Amalei, so he said, Rabbi Yirmiyah, I hold like Rabbi Yirmiyah that she can remain married to the individual to whom she's married. Amalei, so he said, Chazor b'cha, to change your mind, renege on this. To locate, if not, on a kasav Allah zakin mamri. I'm going to write about you that you're a zakin mamri. This appears a couple of other places in Shas, where it, not literally zakin mamri, but that you're rebelling against the word of psak of the other chachamim. Rabbi Zvida, and Rabbi Zvida said, our Mishnah masnisa misail Rabbi Yochanan. Our Mishnah says that is a proof to Rabbi Yochanan because it says actually not our Mishnah, it's a Bryce which parallels our Mishnah. Yivama gets married l'shuk improperly, erroneously, has to get divorced from both the husband she now married, and she has to get chalitza from the brother who she should have married. And she has all the chumras that you spoke about. Divi Rabbi Meir, Shem Rabbi Akiva. That's her man named Rabbi Akiva. Chachorim deny that. Chorim say, "Hey, mamzer v'yavama." There's no mamzer from Yibum, so there's no mamzerus issue. But it indicates that the only one this dispute is the mamzer issue. Or they say, but in terms of getting divorced, you must get divorced from both the Yavam and from this husband in the marketplace. So ultimately, everybody agrees, or the Tanoim agree with Rabbi Yochanan. So I guess it's interesting, I never thought of this when we learned this previously, this language of Zakin Mamre. But the Rambam does bring down that, and there's a famous cast of Mishnah on it, that we don't argue on previous generation in Hilchos Mamre, right? The halachos which have to do with Zakin Mamre in the Rambam. And in fact, it seems here that he was saying that the similar concept to Zakin Mamre exists if you argue on Tanoim, if you and Amora argue on Tanoim. Not that it's actually Zakin Mamre, because actually Zakin Mamre requires Sanhedrin, but it's a similar concept to Zakin Mamre. Okay? Says the Mishnah further. Because of our Sefer V'tah, the Sefer wrote the get and a receipt on the get. And he made a mistake. And he gave the get to the woman and the receipt to the husband. And they gave to each other. So of course no divorce took place, right? Because the woman gave the get to the husband and the husband gave the receipt to the wife. So ultimately, the divorce did obviously not go through. And if in fact someone later down the line it comes out, the man is holding on to the get, but the woman's holding on to the receipt. So there's no divorce, right? So the same thing we said by the previous Mishnah takes place here as well. She has to get divorced from both her first husband and her second husband. And all the severities which you spoke about previously apply to this woman as well. Right?
There is a mamzer issue.
Yeah, here it definitely is a mamzer issue. Rabbi Lezer says it depends. He says, and we're going to pass Rabbi Lezer. Im al asar yotzah, if this is at the time, shortly thereafter, Gemara is going to say what asar means. If it's shortly thereafter, we assume that there's no hanky-panky going on here, and therefore ain't no get, it's not valid get. If, however, this is sometime later down the line, then I'll raise the get. We assume that the get was a valid get. And we assume that the first husband and his ex-wife are in cahoots to play a sly deal here. And the Gemara is going to explain what it is. We don't allow the first husband to cause the second husband to lose his rights over his wife, currently his wife. Okay, the Gemara is going to explain what that means. So the Gemara immediately asks, what are we talking about? If it really was a mistake, after Rebbe Lezer got to concede that there's no divorce. No mistake went on. So the rabbis also have to concede that there is a divorce, right? We don't know if a mistake occurred or not. We don't know if the sofer got mixed up or not. We don't know with any degree of certainty. Okay? We don't know with certainty he did. We don't know with certainty he did not. Rabbi Lezer chashash shema lo torah. Rabbi Lezer suspects that there might not be a mistake, but rather a fast one is being pulled here. Rabbanan chashashim shema torah, and Rabbanan assume that a mistake occurred. And the Gemara is going to explain. Rabbi Lezer says, im alasar yotzah. Certainly after the get was given, it turned out that the get was in the hands of the man, and the receipt in the hands of the woman. So ain't no get, it's not a valid get. If someone later on raised the get, if it came out later on, we suspect that we smell a rat, then I raise the get, it's a valid get, because first one cannot cause the second one a loss. It's basically a repetition of our Mishnah. But now we explain. What's immediately Reb Zira Omer Achulon Isar Sov and Isar Sov? If it's before she got engaged, and then she got engaged but not yet married. She got betrothed and not yet married. So then I suspect that they made a ruse, a plot. Because the first husband wants to make sure, the woman's still going to be mutter to her first husband. Because she never had relations with the second guy, right? So therefore, he might have plotted to make sure that to get his wife, he wants to get his wife back. So since he wants to get his wife back, so therefore he pretends that they switched the get and the receipt, but in reality it didn't occur. Okay, so we're afraid that they're plotting to renege on the divorce and allow him to take her back. That's why we say we don't believe them. Okay? So, one second. Right, so after Erusin, wait one second, I made a mistake. If it happens before Erusin, no, I'm sorry. Happens before Erusin, we assume it's not a mistake. Because anyway, it could just take her back. If it happens after Erusin, we assume... No, I made a mistake. Happens before Erusin, we assume that there was a switch. And that divorce is not valid. Because he could have just, if he wanted to remarry her, he could have just remarried her without going through this whole switcheroo business, right?
Didn't even have to remarry her. He has relations with her. That get for sure is
well, that's going to be the next Mishnah. We'll see about that. Or 2 Mishnahs from now. But in any event, if it's before Erusin, so then I say he didn't have to. He could have done something else. The fact that it's a switch, it must be a bona fide switch. If it's after Erusin, then I say no. He wants to get her back out of the second husband's clutches. So that's why he claims this, and therefore we don't believe him. We assume that, in fact, the Gershom was valid, and this is just a ruse on his part. And then the Gemara says, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Akuli says, Omar, Achlo Nises Venises. No, before she gets fully married to the second guy, we believe him. After she gets fully married to the second guy, we no longer believe the first husband. So the Mishnah, Masnisa, the Mishnah itself, Meseil Rabbi Zira, it says, Lo Komin Arishon L'Abid Chus Min Hasheni. We don't allow the first one to get away with causing the second one to lose his wife. If it's after Nisuin, however, that's not going to be the ramification, because after Nisuin, that means she already had a relation with the second guy, she can't go back to the first guy. So therefore, if it's after the Nisuin already, so then it's not likely to make it clean, because it's too late for her to get it back, for him to get her back. So therefore, it only would be an issue after the Erusin. You're not speaking to the mic because I'm giving shiur, and it's going to come out that you're giving shiur. So I really want to record my shiur. Now later we'll record your shiur. Okay. So if the Erusin, so if it's before Erusin, we say the stomach's a mistake, and the get was not valid. If it's after Erusin, I say no, Mistama, he wants to take her back by this ruse, right? And therefore we don't believe him. If it's after Nisuin, where we paskin, again we believe it was a valid mistake, because anyway we wouldn't be able to get her back. So therefore it must be that it actually was a mistake at that point. Okay? Says Mark, if he wrote to get to divorce his...
Excuse me, if it's after Nisuin already, can't he claim, first husband claim that she's an Ish, that there was no divorce, and that she's still married to him?
Yeah, according to Rabbi Lezer, we don't accept. According to Rabbi, yeah, we do. We accept it. That's right. The only time, according to the way it comes out, the only time we assume it's not a ruse, the only time we see a Medusa ruse, is between Erusin and Nisuin. Not before Erusin, and not after Nisuin. That's how it comes out, conclusion.
We don't believe.
Right. Okay? Says the Mishnah further. A guy writes to divorce his wife. And then he changes his mind. He never gives her the get. The shamer mean possum in akuna, the fact that he wrote her the get renders her unfit to kuna. Forget about it writing it, but even if he gave it to her, and he gave it to her conditionally, lo tonight, the condition was not fulfilled, lo possum in akuna, she's not rendered invalid for a kahuna. Okay? Rabbi Anai said, Ein ba mishum, it should be zihum kahuna. There's no even discuss to kahuna. Even though the get was written, it's not considered to be, and even given on condition, it's not considered to be anything to be plugged for kahuna. Kohanim can marry her. Vein basin mizaminosa. Basin is not rejected for kohanim. Asa uvda, something want to come to my left? Asa uvda kum Rabbi Chia Rabbah. A case like this came from Rabbi Chia the Great. And did not make her rejected for kuna. Amle Rav, so Rav said, why do you put yourself into the suffix? In other words, look, it's a machlokas Beishamai Beisil. You can't take this lightly. It's interesting because Beishamai usually say Beishamai Mokam Beisil ain't no Mishnah, right? And we don't take into account. But here he's saying, Beishamai is no small fry. You got to take it into account. So it says, Gemara, Amar Le Rabbi Shmuel, so he said, no, it was okay, because Rabbi Shmuel Yossi Havai me. Rabbi Shmuel Yossi was with me together on this one. And we passed on this together. The Korah and he said concerning this, I'm not sure who said this, Rabbi Chia, who was together Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, or Rav about Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, Tovim Ashnai Mina Echad. Two are better than one. It's an interesting principle in Psak, which we do see even in modern responsive literature, that if it's a particularly weighty issue, very often a posuk will say, I don't want to paskin by my own. I want somebody else to paskin with me. Okay? Even though he theoretically holds that it's mutter, he wants there to be, distribution. Okay, so that's the same idea over here. Now, out of left field, just because it's talking about kuna, if a woman arouses herself with her son. This is obviously a son who's below 9 years old, right? So it's not real bia. But she just fools around with him. So Beishamai says that incestuous type of fooling around renders her puzzle l'kuhuna. But so much says it's not a bia, so she's okay. Shtei noshim, lesbian relationships. Shumasaldo zubazu, Beis Shammai Poslim. I don't remember this from the Bible. You remember this from the Bible? Beis Shammai Poslim. Beis Shammai says that women are rendered Pasul Lakuna. Beis Hillel Machshir and Beis Hillel says they're still kosher. Okay, might be a disgusting thing, but doesn't pass from Kuna. Hamagarish Shishto, a locates. Somebody divorces the wife. Vilani Moabum dig in, then they go to the motel afterwards. Beis Shammai remain a Tzichem Meno get. Beis Shammai says they don't need require another get. But still remains Tzichem Meno get. We assume that when they went into the motel together, it was for the purpose of remarriage. Amos said when it was true, Bismach is Garshman and Suin, when they got divorced from a full marriage. So then we assume if they go get together, either one of two things, and the Bible speaks out something like the Yerushalmi just glosses it over it. Either we're assuming that now when they get together again, they'll have bia, and that'll affect the marriage, or we're assuming that their bia, that whatever they do is for the intent of kiddushin, right? However, if they just got divorced after Erusin, ain't a tzichem meno get, you don't need a second get, either meaning that they're not going to have bia, or even that bia they're not going to have for the purpose of kiddushin. Okay, so kinsa beget kerech. We married her with a bald get. This actually, the next Mishnah will explain. I'm not sure why the Mishnah was disincluded in this Mishnah. Should be in the next Mishnah. If he married her through a bald get, the second husband, Taitim is she's got to get divorced from both. And everything we said about it previously applies to this case as well. Now, last night I grappled this and I fumbled it and was not able to deal with it when the Mishnah on the Gemara Mem Vav and Beis Mem Zayin and Ralph had a similar case. Actually, Mem Zayin and Ralph. It said. Right before the beginning of Halacha Hey. Anyway, that Gemara and the Mefarshim there are basically this Gemara over here in much greater detail, and here the Gemara makes it quite clearer. And the Kormei Pnei Moshe's Machlokas over there is really two pshatim here in the Gemara. Amar said, Beis Shammai Kedaton, Beis Hillel Kedaton. Beis Shammai still followed in line of reasoning. Beis Shammai dinu namri poter adam v'sishto begedi yoshon. Beis Shammai who says that an individual can divorce his wife with a get even after he had relations with her. The flip side of that is even dormi they say ain't tzichem in a get sheni. They say that the bia after the get doesn't pass with the get. Just like a bia after a get doesn't render a get invalid, you can still get divorced via that get. So too, if you slept with your wife after having given the divorce is still valid as well. Okay? So, Beis Hillel, Dina Namrin, Beis Hillel said, ain't no point to forget the Yoshon. Once you have beer with your wife after having a get, you have to write a new one from scratch. In the Dharma, they're consistent when they say over here, Tzichem and a get sheni, the second get is necessary under these circumstances. Rabbi Yisrael says, Beis Shammai, that's one interpretation, Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel holding like the line of reasoning elsewhere. Another way of understanding that, how so? Beis Shammai didn't nominate. Beis Shammai says later on in the Masechta, a person shall not divorce his wife unless he found some licentious. Lying on the table. It was too long ago, right? How's your hand? Let's put the water. So. All right. We did a blot already tonight. Oh, yeah, that's nice, easy. Come on. I think we did a blot, almost a blot. We're up to Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, Kedaiton. The second one over here. I was just saying how I fumbled last time Mem Zayin Ralph, and really this Gemara after Halacha Tes is an explication of the Gemara Mem Zayin Ralph and Halacha Dalet in much greater detail. So we're up to the second approach here. Rabbi Yossi Rabuna, about 5 lines down the Gemara. Rabbi Yossi Rabuna says, Beis Shammai Kedaiton, Beis Hillel Kedaiton. Beis Shammai you all, then Beis Hillel follow the line of reasoning. Beis Shammai, Beis Shammai who say, who say, a match not divorce his wife unless he found some licentious aspect about her conduct. They say she's repugnant upon him. So therefore, even if they go to the motel afterwards, he's not going to have relations with her, or he's not going to want to remarry her because she's a licentious woman. He divorced her because he doesn't. She's licentious. So therefore, if a get changed, doesn't require a second get, because we assume that either they didn't have bia, or if they had bia, it wasn't for the purpose of kiddushin, right? Basil Dormin, the Ilu Nomi, but Basil says, I feel you can divorce your wife even if she burnt your dish, so maybe you still love her at some point. I mean, could be, we regret having divorced her. So therefore, if we assume if you went to a motel with her, maybe you want to remarry her. Even the Amrin, they say, she's not repugnant his eyes, and he's suspect to want to take her back. And when he goes to motel, maybe there was a new act of kiddushin. That's which requires another get.
So it turns out Beis Hillel is makil on reasons for giving a get, but he's machmir once they have bia after the get.
Right, correct. That's what happens, right? That's consistent. Correct. Okay? If you divorce your wife, lo todrimo, she shouldn't live you, lo bosa chotzer, not in the same courtyard, v'lo so marvely, not, it says makom, it should be marvely, nor in the same street. If the courtyard belonged to the woman, ish mefana, the man moves away. Shalish, if the courtyard belonged to the man, ish mefana, the wife moves away. Shneim, if it belongs to both of them, mi mefana mipnei mi, who leaves because of whom? So you know it's coming. Ish b'nei ish, you kick out the wife and the husband stays behind. If it's possible, they seal up a wall between the two of them, and each opens their courtyard into a respective, the different mavli, right? What? When is this true? So there's a little bit of a tzimis here. I'm going to learn like the Shai Torah Yisrael. The two versions here in Shai Torah, it's two perushim here. Shai Torah so basically puts them both into Gemara by changing the kirsa. It says like this. First, Ba'med Vorim Murim, before we get to what it says here in the Gemara. Ba'med Vorim Murim, Bizman Shenises, is only true if she gets remarried to somebody else. Holon Ises Lo, right? If she doesn't get remarried, not, okay? Because the prohibition of having relations with your ex-wife is a relatively light one if she's not yet married to somebody else. So therefore, they didn't make them move out from each other's vicinity under those circumstances. Now, it should be with a kohenes afilu lo nises, and with a kohenes, even if she's not yet remarried, since the issue of going to a divorcee is more severe, it's a lav. So therefore, we want them to have different entrances. Now, but what it says more, and also when it's true, min zman shenisu, or min hanisuin, when in their first marriage to each other, they had actually been married to each other and had cohabited together as man and wife. So then we're afraid they're going to fall into old patterns. Holoni sulo, but if they were not married before, so they only had Erusin, not Nisuin, and divorced from Erusin, so they're not accustomed to cohabiting, so therefore not afraid they're going to fall back into old patterns. With a Kohenes, I feel Nisuin by Kohenes, since again the Issa Grusha is more severe, so that even if they were not married before, they have to open other separate doors. Varusa Shibuda, and remember in Yehuda, the Arusa would be engaged in intimate relations very often with her betrothed husband, right? That was Yehuda. They would have yichud after Erusin. So therefore, even after the divorce from Erusin, they also should have separate entrances, right? But never actually a relation to her, obviously. Otherwise, chalitza would not have worked. Even though he didn't mimer to her, you don't have to have separate entrances or kick anybody out. Right, Mamer Koinakin Gomer, because Mimer was like Lo Nisu, that originally were not married to each other. Okay, now the Mishnah, the Gemara gets a little bit more complex. Not hard, but complex. And this is the next sugya to the end of the parak is much more detailed than in the Yerushalmi. My impression is that by the time in Bavel, they only very rarely use the get mekushar. But in Eretz Yisrael, they use the get mekushar far more often. And the concept of get mekushar is that you fold it up. We know what a get mekushar is, right? So what do I have?
Last time.
Okay, I've had it so many times that we show what it is. So get kereach. So the halach is on every fold you need a signature. Okay? So get kereach, if you don't have, if it's ball, not every fold is signature. So before it said it's possible. So what do you do with it in order to machshir? Mashlim elav k'divrei ben nanos. According to Hakol mashlim elav k'divrei ben nanos, anybody can sign on the folds, even a apostle, even a relative, even a apostle, right? And get convicted murderers to sign. It doesn't matter. Anybody can sign. According to ben nanos, it's got to be. It can be relatives, but they have to be suitable to testify elsewhere, not psulim. Ezu get kerech, what's a bald get? Kol shekshar moving made of, wherever you have more folds, says ties, but ties and folds are equivalent, wherever you have more folds, then you have witnesses. Okay? Minayel get mekusha, who knows such concept get mekusha? I'm Ravi says, the Ksiv, it says, Vakachas Sefer, it says, I took the book, and Shai Torah brings down, says, Zeh Pasha, that's a standard document. Vesa Chasum, the sign, the sealed, Zeh Mekusha, that's a folded get. Vesa Golui, the revealed, Zeh Pasha Mekusha, that's a case, that's the main text which is in the Mekusha get. Vesa Mitzvah Ve'achukim, what is Mitzvah and Chukim? So a quote from the Pasuk in Yirmiyah, Chukim mitzvahs ben zeh lezeh, the laws and commands which differentiate between a regular get and a get mekusher. Shezeh b'shnayim, v'zeh b'shlosha. A regular get requires 2 witnesses, and a get mekusher requires 3 witnesses. Okay, at least 3. That's the differential. Chazal differentiated that way. The assumption is that's going to need even more, right? Because you're going to fold it several times. So. At least 3, okay? Also, semi-toicho, the edim on a regular get sign on the inside. Zemiachra get mekusher, they sign on the outside, right? Right, Babashem Rav said, Pashut edav rocho, by a regular get, they sign across the width of the document like we do today. Mekusher edav lorko, they sign across the length of the document, okay? Not horizontally, but vertically. Rabida said, no, not true. They also sign horizontally. Ben kesher kesher edim choismin, right? It's they sign vertically. I mean horizontally, the way we sign, but on the back, on the folds, right? Ubilvad milamalon, and that's a critical component. It's got to be on the other side of the get. Milamalon means on the back of the get, right? So it says the Gemara, v'chash lomar shema ziyef. So it says the Gemara, well, how you know if they don't sign in the front of the document, they only sign in the back of the document, maybe it's going to be, maybe there'll be forgeries. So if they sign lengthwise, actually we assume that the way they write their signatures is supposed to go the entire length of the document. Supposed to stretch it out the entire length of the document. But if they sign widthwise, horizontally, so how do you know that something wasn't added on at some point, which they didn't, which wasn't there when they signed? So it says the Gemara, Sabra Nachum wanted to say, now the lo'olam ein edim chosim bo milamaton, achik bo milamalon. Now it's, before it said they sign on top. But here I think we're reversing directions. At least that's what it seems to me. The Edom don't sign on the bottom, meaning on the flip side, until they read what's in the inside. And they have to read the following on the inside. Ani plenty been playing mekabel komash kasabo milamalon. I so-and-so, the son of so-and-so, accepted by myself everything which it says on top, but here on top means on the top of the document. In other words, in the text of the document. So here, top can mean 3 different things. Top can mean the top side document. Top can mean the bottom side document. Top can mean the top inside the document. Okay? just to confuse us all. Now, this is interesting because this is similar, actually, to what we write in our get. We write in our get, Hakol Shor V'Kayim. At the end of every get, any document we write either Kol Shor V'Kayim or Kedas Moshe B'Yisrael. In a get Mekushar, instead of that, they'd write the following this language. Ani playing ben playing Mekabel Komash Kosabom Bilamala. Now the Gemara is going to say meant that's not if only you get Mekushar to use such a language, not in a regular get. Okay? But this language they use in a get Mekushar. Now B'chashlam Hashem Machak V'chazer V'ziyeh says more still let's have a problem. That after he wrote that, maybe they erased and wrote something else on top, improper. Now here the Gemara gets choppy. Let's cut and paste here. Let's cut and paste what it says here. Sava Rav Huna, 4 lines from here. So basically, Shai Teres Eretz Yisrael. Sava Rav Huna Machak Pasla Afilu Kim. Rav Huna says, if you any erasure, possible get, even if you sustain the writing on top of the erasure and say, no, this is written by the same scribe and it's clearly, the same writing. Nevertheless, the erasure invalidates the get. So if you see an erasure in a get or any star, it invalidates the star. Okay? So that's not a problem of erasure. So the Gemara says, well, still, there are ways of getting out of that. Now here, go back one line from where we just cut and paste. The beginning of the line, it says, V'chach lomar. Okay? So now the Gemara asks another question. V'chach lomar shema kasa dvarim acher. Maybe he wrote other stuff. The chazer, and he went back, and it should be the kasa mikubalalai. Now, it seems that it's true that a kiyim sustaining the erased area is not valid. But if the guy writes explicitly, the Gemara is assuming, if the guy writes explicitly on the erasure, mekubalalai, right? He writes at the end of the document, ani play mekabalalai. What if he wrote mekubalalai also on the erasure? That should work for that erasure, just like it works for the entire document. In that case, how are the Adam going to know that wasn't added on as well later on? So it says, when answering that, going back now 2 lines, Sav Rav Huna holds, Mekubalalai, Shtei Pamim Paisaba. Says no. There's no such escape hatch. If you have Mekubalalai twice in the document is possible as well. So we are never concerned that, as long as it says at the end of the document Mekubalalai once, it doesn't say it elsewhere in the document, and there are no signs, even if there's then there are no signs of erasures. That's what defines a kosher get makusher. If there's a sign of erasure, Gornish Telfin. It can't be kosher. Even if you write Mekubalalai twice. If it says Mekubalalai twice, of course, that too is no good. Because you can only say once Mekubalalai on the document. Okay? So again, the solution Mekubalalai is specifically by get makusher.
What if there's an erasure and it says Mekubalalai right next to the erasure? And then at the bottom again it says Mekubalalai, or just
doesn't help. No, that's what you just said. Doesn't help. No.
It's just different than
you have to start from scratch.
Modern day, if you cross something out,
you initial it. Right. Corner doesn't help. That's so clear. Okay. Even a regular get it might work. I don't remember, but not a get makusher, because they ate him on the back. That's why it doesn't work by a get makusher. Okay. So I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Late spot they say. Rabbi Yochanan basically argues on our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said if you married a woman with a get kereach, she's got to get divorced. So Rabbi Yochanan says, no, it's not so terrible. Rabbi Ami said, Kama, shouldn't be kofin, it should be goofin. It's interchangeable. Kama goofin do the how many cases? The Hava all the Kum Rabbi Yochanan came from Rabbi Yochanan. The Kum Reish Lakish. And from Reish Lakish. Vino and Amrin, so what they used to say was a get kerech. They would say, Pukva v'shalem, go out and put on more signatures Rabbi Akiva, like Rabbi Akiva. Now, I'm not sure exactly what he's saying. I think he's asking a question. I think he's saying, but I'm not sure. You know what? I'm not sure exactly what he's doing at all. I think I take that back. I think what he's doing is that Rabbi Yochanan said, arguing our Mishnah, and he said when it says you have to be mashlim. But the evet that you get is a valid get, even if it's lacking signatures. That's what it sounds like for the more. I know it right. Rabbi Yochanan has to argue in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says kereach teitze, right? But maybe the other way I could learn is that he holds halacha. He was arguing halacha test. Halacha test says, Kinsa b'get kerech titzeh mizeh mizeh. And halacha yid is saying, no, even after it was given over, if you're lacking witnesses, you can add on witnesses. Okay? In other words, as long as you have the basic two witnesses which are necessary to validate a get, later on you can add on witnesses, even to get makusha. Maybe that's what he holds. The halacha yud argues on halacha test. Okay? So it says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, Masnisa b'mechusar eid echad. Now, I want to learn, I'm going to change gears ever so slightly in the next couple of lines, because I didn't like anything anybody else had to say about this. He said, Rabbi Yochanan says, our Mishnah is mechusar, Masnisa b'mechusar eid echad, it's only missing one, eid echad bilvad. Okay? It says ubilvad, I want to take out that above. When you're missing one witness, you can be matched with. Only one. In other words, if you have missing one witness, you can use a korov or according to Tanakh, you use a apostle. According to Kiva, you can use a korov. You can be matched with. So remember, get Mekusha needs how many witnesses? 3. So the Hashlama can be an invalid witness. Okay. When it's one of the first 3, okay? Shnayim v'shlosha l'malon. If you have 2 or 3 on top, then you can Shnayim v'shlosha l'malon. If you have 2 or 3 witnesses on top, puzzle. You can even use a puzzle to be mashlim, whatever else you have to be mashlim. As long as you have 2 kosher witnesses, subsequent ones can be puzzle, right? Either the third one or beyond on the other folds. Ve'echad mishloisha, and I would take out the word ulamato here. Ve'echad mishloisha kosher, and only one of the 3 basic ones can Vecha mishlosha is kosher. So the way I want to read that is that only one of the 3 can be a puzzle. Okay? Even though it says only one of the 3 is kosher, it means if one of the 3 is a korov or a puzzle, then the get is kosher. So in other words, from the first 3, 2 have to be kosher ones. That's basically what it's trying to say. And once you have 2 kosher ones, you can add on whoever you want. But for the first 3, 2 have to be kosher. Okay? So it says, do the 2 kosher ones have to be one after the other? Or that I know that obviously it's good. What if you had a kosher one, a puzzle one, and then a kosher one? Is that good? In other words, the puzzle witness came in between the 2 kosher witnesses. Does that work or not? So it says, yes, it's okay. He undid 2 folds because he only had 3 witnesses. Is a case where the Eidim signed both on the inside and the outside. So you fold it over 3 times or 5 times, whatever it was, and then the Eidim signed on the outside and on the inside. So that way, you were Yaitse. If it's a get Makusha, you sign on the outside. If it's a get Pashut, you sign on the inside. And that's the case. So Chanir Gamil said, if you want, you can leave a get Makusha. If you want, you can make it get Pashut. Okay? Says more further, Rabbanan say, She'eni yochel asos Pashut. No, once a get becomes Makusha, you can't make it a Pashut anymore. It's got to remain a get Makusha. Because once even if you sign on both the inside and the outside, the fact that you signed on the outside means it's a get Makusha. So therefore, in fact, if you're missing witnesses, you started with 5 folds, and then you only have 3 witnesses, you have a problem, according to Rabbanan. Because Chanel says you can undo it. Migo, that you could open up the whole get and make it a pashut, you can open up 2 folds. But Rabbanan holds, once it comes to get Makusha, there's no going back. So if you have 5 folds, you got to find Krovim or Psulim to fill up the rest of the folds.
Still being Makusha with 3 folds.
Right?
You're taking out 2 of the folds, you're leaving.
It seems that doesn't matter. You're right, but it seems it doesn't matter. It seems that you need that migo, that you could have undone it all together in order to undo 2 folds. But if you don't have that migo that you can undo it all together, then you can't even undo two folds. That's what he's saying. Okay? Says the Gemara, hey, Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel. So Rabbi asked Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, I don't understand. How can you make a makusha into a pashut? Gufa shall get mochiach in pashut ve'eno pashut. The text of the get is different if it's pashut or not pashut. How so? Ezu gufa shall get, what's the text of the get? Rabbi said, Kai Damar Ravuna. It's like Ravuna said, Loilam Ein. Let's slow down, my love. Loilam Ein. Loilam Ein Ha'edim Chosin Bo Milamaton. Achriku Bo Milamalon. The aim can't sign the bottom of a get Makushar until they read on the bottom. Ani Plani Ben Ploni. I so and so, the son of so and so. Mikubal Olai Komach Kosu Bo Lamalon. Right? So, V'hatani, so it says quite clear that's the lashon of a get, and that's only lashon of get makusha. So it says the Gemara, V'hatani tovus shtaros keinu. Wait a second, didn't we learn any get? Can we remember that? It says that's the tovus of any shtar. Doesn't say you get makusha. I might have said no. You misread that Bryce or whatever it is. Tovus shtaros makusharin kachu. That's only how get makusha is written. So in that case, the text is different. How can you change the get makusha and the get posher? So Rabbi Yavin says a very simple answer. He says, "Afilu teim Rabbi Yavin, afilu teim hu posher makusha." You can even posher makusha. You can say have the same text, but the only difference is makusha hu ma'akev. By makusha, you must write that lashon into the makusha. So I saw everything was written there on top, right? I, the person who's giving this get. By a pashut, that's optional. Why the difference? Very simply, by a makusha, since the native sign on the other side, so you must have that language. That's makubal. By a pashut, since the native sign on that side, so you don't need that language of makubal. But if you wrote it, it's not kaferlach. So that's why, according to Chanina ben Gamliel, you can take a makusha and make a pashut, because the extra language it's not in this case, it's not called mosif korea. It doesn't detract from the kashrus of the get.
Don't you even have to say before like that?
No, that's a shliach, not the Eidim. Anyway, we're not talking about that issue anymore. That would be a separate issue. But no, they don't. The shliach say funny nechta, not the Eidim. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Acho Amar. Now this is a separate issue actually. This is going on a case in Boa Basra of how many Eidim you need. Rabbi Acho Amar b'moisif al halacha. If you want to add on to the halacha, that's okay. Meaning, pashut b'shnayim u'minag b'shleisha. If the pashut only requires 2 witnesses, but there's a minhag in some place they have 3. That's fine. Mekusha me'achrav, however, that's adding on to the halacha. That's being more machmir, being more meko. For example, mekusha me'achrav. If also this is a chumrah, I guess. Mekusha normally it's on the outside, right? Only. Minhag mitochem achrav. If you have a minhag, like Chanina ben Gamliel said about a case before that the Eidim sign both on the inside and the outside, right? Right? So that also works as well. But in order, if the minhag is fakert to detract, that you cannot do. Says Nisa Achav Nisa Tamar. We learned over this whole thing about Get Makusha here in Masechta Gittin and also Masechta Boa Basra. And here it's about Gittin and there it's about monetary documents. Isn't it right, Shtaros? Isn't that redundant? No. You needed to learn over there and you need to learn over here as well. If you would have just learned it here and not over there, Avin would have said, is possible. There we would see here, since Barayas are more severe, that's why if it's a Makush, it's not done properly, it's possible. But Tam and they shouldn't let him b'choim Barayas, it's not a Rayas. So Kosh, if it's not done properly, it's Nishka Ferlach, right? So let's just be like, you get Pashut. That's you have to tell me there, it's possible as well. And vice versa, we Lumisani or Tamon, if it would have just said it over there, the Lumisani would have said it over here, Havin Army would have said, Tamon, Aideshu Goiva Apostle. There, since it's used for monetary matters, we're more stringent. Right? Because Dinim Bomra said to be much more stringent. Here, since it's not used to collect money, And we know a minimal get you can write on an olive leaf. Writes all of this is just chumrus, right? So I might say it's kosher even if it's not written properly, right? Have it tzurcha misnaya hacha, tzurcha misnaya tamon. That's what you have to tell me, both cases. Okay? And I go home and hear the senator.